behind and for being here. I really do appreciate the support. So we begin with a prayer for guidance. Let us pray. Direct us, O Lord, in all our doings with your most gracious favor, and further us with your continual help, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in you, we may glorify your holy name, and finally, by your mercy, obtain everlasting life. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. All right. So the first order of our business today, per our agenda, is to elect new vestry members. We have had nominations for Jeanette Ravendran and Marek Walzak. Now, Marek had to leave, unfortunately, for the 16th birthday party of his daughter, Ava, which is a fair enough excuse. So he is officially excused. But are there any nominations from the floor for vestry members? Well, that being the case, we have, as I say, two nominations for new vestry members to replace those who have stepped down, having completed their term. So I would welcome your acclamation as a sign of electing Marek and Jeanette to the vestry. Let us applaud. Now, I do want to recognize the service of Chris Grimelli and Wayne Pugh over the last 3 years. They've been very valuable members of the vestry, have contributed substantially to our discussions and to our work outside our vestry meetings. So thank you, and of course they know that their service to the church has not ended with the end of their 3-year term. This is a lifetime appointment. Not on the vestry, but as a member of St. Barnabas. But thank you, Chris, for all that you do, and for your work as a crucifer, and Wayne, for all that you do. We're deeply appreciative of that. Now, I've invited our acting treasurer, with the emphasis on acting, Christine Schmitz, to give a brief overview of our financial status. And I have passed out copies of our first quarter financial statement so that all of you have an up-to-date record of parish finances, of the state of our parish in terms of the money that we have available. So please review that when you get home or some other occasion. And if you have any questions at all, please contact Christine, and she'll be very happy to answer them. But yes, call her anytime after midnight. She's still up.
Thank you, thank you.
Christine?
Yes.
There's a microphone up there.
Does that help?
Yeah, flat screen's gonna need it.
Oh, okay. Is it on? Lisa, are we good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so just high level on the finances. What we've given you is as of March 31st. So our total accounts, various cash and savings accounts, total $93,314. You may know from our prior discussions running this church, the budget every year is over 200,000. Our budget this year, which is I think scaled down every year a little bit, 215,000 is what we need to cover all of our expenses. So, I mean, I'm happy to say with some of the interest we have coming in, dividends, and especially from the parishioners' pledges, we come close to being able to cover probably 200,000 of that. But we do have to dip into our reserves most likely by 15 to 20,000 by the end of the year. Now, the other bigger thing that probably Chris and Richard will talk about are some major expenses to the property, this property in particular. You know, we're dealing with the outside mortar issue. That's a major project which we're trying to get a grant to cover, but so far we are sort of not being able to get the funds we need, and that project is, I'd say, $90,000 to $95,000. It doesn't have to be done all at one time, but we are looking for another way to cover some of that need. The other need is some damage in the roof, which we're not sure. The insurance company is saying it's regular wear and tear over the course of time, and it's causing some damage.
I'll use my pointer.
Yes. Yes, if you can see over there in that corner, you'll see the damage from the water damage that's coming down from the bell tower. So right now, the insurance company has not made a final decision on whether they will cover that under our policy. But the cost of, say, the exterior portion around the bell tower right now is about $7,000. This is going to be an additional cost. We don't actually have the quote on the inner cost. So we have, you know, two major things that have to be dealt with in one way or another. I did reach out to the diocese on Friday about whether we would be able to qualify for an additional Middendorf loan. We have a Middendorf loan that we've used for the major projects to the parish house. And we have been paying that down on a regular basis. So I heard back from Jason Kamrath, the comptroller of the diocese, and he said, yes, some churches have come back and asked for additional amounts from that loan, Middendorf loan. So that is going to be something we're going to look at. We're also looking at whether we also ask for some consideration on our assessment that we pay to the diocese. However, I wouldn't think that's going to be a major consideration as far as, you know, I think we'd be looking at some minor amount, maybe 5,000 or something reduction there, if anything. So I think Jill probably will say a few words in a bit about all of the work she and Lisa have been doing to look for grants to cover some of these costs. So that's what we're looking at, you know, possibly have to appeal to the congregation as a whole for maybe some additional consideration in addition to pledges. So are there any specific questions I can address? Yes, Linda.
This is kind of minor in the scheme of things. I mean, we do need to have roof over our head, but for hospitality, it just doesn't seem, I mean, there's a lot of zeros there. So, can you just kind of clue us in about that? And then the outreach is when we do things with the shelters and escape.
Right.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so Linda has a question about hospitality. And she said, you know, there doesn't seem to be much, we don't have an income line for hospitality, but certainly if,
It's on the top of page 3 of 3.
yeah, okay, let's get to that. You're right, we don't have a specific amount put into that budget, but certainly we can be flexible in that. If you say we're going to need more, we'll make room for that. I mean, I assume it's not going to be extensive. What are you, 300-400? Or are you thinking bigger numbers that we
And then
need?
the outreach expenses, that's, like, it says annual budget, 4,500, does that include, like, the shelters?
It does. Now, when you look at the outreach, we do have income from outreach. So we have two places to see outreach. We have a place on page 1 of 3, which is called, it's number 4022, outreach. So people have given contributions so far of $1,280 toward outreach, and we predict that people will give up to $6,000 in income for outreach. But we also budgeted, if needed, we can take $4,500 from the budget for outreach. So it's a little confusing. You've got two lines. You've got the income line for people sending money in, and we got the expense line if we have to take it out of the budget. And we're always hopeful that we don't have to spend all of the things in the expense columns. But if we do have to spend everything in the expense columns, it's $215,000. Other questions?
There's a GoFundMe page for the mortar repair, right? How do you said just GoFundMe.com, and what do you do when you get there?
Lisa, am I accurate for the GoFundMe page? They can just go to GoFundMe.com.
Yeah, but my understanding was that the St. Barnabas website should have a link to that. I'm not sure if that was done. There's also a link that should have been printed in the announcements at some point. But you should be able to find it at GoFundMe St. Barnabas Episcopal.
We'll have to check, and maybe we can have Sue write more detailed. Yeah, because I think last check we only had about $400 coming in.
About 400, yeah.
The other thing we're looking into is whether we're going to add Venmo or Zelle as an option for people to give us money. One parishioner has asked for us to add Venmo. I talked to the bank this week. She felt certainly that's a possibility. Zelle is the method that they recommend because they think they have sort of a tighter control at PNC Bank, which is our bank, with Zelle, and that no one has to know any numbers from your bank account. But I'm trying to tie that down this week, whether we're going to add Venmo or Zelle, so people could send money right from their phone if they wanted.
For Zelle?
Yeah, it's not available yet, but it will.
What is that, ZEL?
ZELLE. And you'd have to set it up on your phone. You have Venmo? Okay. Yes.
Regarding the GoFundMe, if we donate to the GoFundMe, does that go into our donation for the year, or is that something separate? Because I know in the past, my husband and I have donated to like GoFundMe, and when we went to do our taxes, she was like, these aren't taxes, that's actually go to. But of course, this was not for a church or anything, so that's why I'm wondering.
Well, it's our GoFundMe page, so Sue would have to be tying that in to your report. So when she gets the receipts of who sent money in, then it should be put into your report. Now, whether it's, she might not put it in toward your pledge, because it might be, we set up the GoFundMe page for a specific project or something. So we have to make sure you get credit for that, but it certainly should be deductible.
Christine?
Yes,
And the GoFundMe will send receipts to those who donate.
okay,
We should also get a letter of who donated.
right, and that has to be tied into what we put into our system through our administrator. Taylor, did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, Lisa said, we checked when we started the GoFundMe page to see if it was tax deductible, and it is,
Yeah,
because of the price of the church on it.
okay, great, thank you.
And to answer the question, I just looked it up. If you do go to GoFundMe, St. Barnabas Episcopal, Eldersburg, it'll come up. And
Okay.
And it'll have my name, Lisa Thomas, on it. That's the site.
St. Barnabas Episcopal,
GoFundMe, St. Barnabas Episcopal, Eldersburg, Maryland.
Okay. And it probably says Eldersburg because our official address is now a P.O. box in Eldersburg. Okay. Anything else?
If you wanted to donate to that fund, would you prefer that we write a check and give it to St. Barnabas and earmark it, or would you prefer to go to the?
It really doesn't matter. I think for the sake of, I think I'd rather you just write a check, but especially for people who aren't, maybe coming regularly or they don't have the same ties to the church, GoFundMe is a way to bring those contributions in. We still love checks. Okay. Anything else? All right.
Thank you, Christine. I will make sure that the announcements for next Sunday include the GoFundMe address for St. Barnabas, so we'll have confirmation of that. All right, I invite Chris, as our senior warden, to say what's on his mind and in his heart.
All right, just to play off of what Christine was just telling you about the roof and the wall repair, it's not from lack of trying that we have not come up with more than one estimate for the roof repair. We've had 3 contractors look at it. 2 of them said, thanks, but no thanks. Wouldn't want to be up there if we can avoid it. We're not that desperate for work, apparently. But in all fairness, Roof Right, who's the one who gave us the estimate, comes recommended, but it isn't just someone we found and said, come on out here. I was kind of surprised, in all honesty, when the estimator from the insurance company showed up last week and got up there. And he wouldn't tell us anything other than he was going to put in an estimate to the insurance company. So I fully expected a check in Christine's hands by now, until we found out from the insurance company that the estimator said, no, it's all normal wear and tear. That it wasn't an act of God or nature or anything else that caused the damage to the bell tower. When we first put the bell tower on in 1999, well, the one that's up there now, obviously there was one there before, it was brought down, worked on the ground, and then put back up again with a crane. And we have pictures to verify it all as far as how all it went together, but the mistake that was made was the flashing that was put around at the base of it, where it covers the roof, was just put on with nails and grout and not chiseled into the wood. And the wood itself was a very thin paneling that was used for exterior use, but it's 22 years old now. And it just hasn't been, I'm not gonna say it hasn't been maintained, it just has run its service life. So that's why we're stuck where we are. So the estimate, as Christine said, is roughly $6,700 that the roofer gave us. And of course, you all saw the corner in the plaster right now, which is probably a greater concern to you after all the rain we had this morning and yesterday, or the day before. But it's just gonna get worse if we don't do something about it. Now, some of you might remember about 12 years ago when we had a problem in the opposite corner of the altar wall. Same thing was happening, but there was a settling crack. The building was settling, it was cracking the plaster. And water got in behind that. We had mold growing in it at that point. We had to set the whole thing up like an abatement site. And it took us like 2 weeks to get it all taken care of, but we did it. It's similar to what's happening here with my right ear left as far as that corner is concerned. And of course, the longer that's it, the worse it's gonna get. So it is something we need to do. Now, what Christine didn't tell you, that she always reins me in on this, I've spent this money about 15 times now. The Middendorf loan that Molly helped to take out when we worked on the parish house was for $100,000. And as Christine said, we've been paying it back very faithfully ever since. Roughly $900 a month, give or take? Okay. So we're in good stead with the church as far as that's concerned. We did not use all that money, however, when we worked on the parish house. We still have roughly 15,000. I know you're hating me for this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. That we could, if we had to, go to, but I really would prefer not to if we can avoid it. So any money we could get elsewhere to help with the roof would be great. Plus, I've already tapped that money 5 times for the wall, and Christine just has to rein me back in every time I turn to her. And I know she hates taking my phone calls. Like, she's got to be looking at that phone and saying, I'm going to voicemail on this one. So give it some thought, gang. I don't want to beat this up. You all know about it now. We've talked about it in the past as far as the wall is concerned. Now the roof apparently is obviously going to take more precedent over the wall right now. I just want the wall to go against the back burner and we forget about it. Just remember that the wall is not just to hold the building up, it's to protect the stained glass windows as well. It's something we also have to consider when it comes to this. And I'm going to let Jill talk about all the effort she and Lisa put into trying to get money on the outside. The blanket ministry is still alive and well, gang. I know we're coming into the summertime, but people need blankets no matter what. We're talking about people that have really nothing. They're down on their luck. They're going to the night-by-night shelter or the family shelter. So if you have anything at home, doesn't have to be the kits that we were buying. You have large pieces of fleece, even small pieces. I mean, we have babies to take care of too. You know, think of Grant, or a young mother with somebody like him, needing a blanket just for him, for the child. So not to be a large piece is my point. And we can get it out to these shelters and keep our ministry going. There are 2 other things I want to ask you all about. One of them is, if anybody has access to a paint striper, we need to repaint the lines out in the parking lot. I'm sure you've all seen it. It hasn't been done for almost 20 years. If anybody has access to one, you belong to a community club, one of the athletic places like lacrosse or soccer, whoever it is, when they stripe their fields, they use a paint striper for that. We can buy the paint for it. It just makes it a whole lot easier if you have the machine, even though it's handheld, to use that to put the lines in. Also, if anybody has access to ground penetrating radar, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a machine, it's like a sled you drag across the surface of the ground. It fires a radar signal down into the ground and it bounces back any objects that it finds, such as unmarked graves, which is really what I'm interested in the cemetery. Last week we had a great effort put forth to reset a lot of the gravestones we have in the cemetery. And the ones that could be done were done. But now we also have the ones that are breaking loose from the bases that we just can't rock them back into place. It's going to be a different project. And this is also a different project as far as, do we have unmarked graves out there that have just been lost over time? You know, it's an old cemetery, as you all know. And I'd just like to try and resurrect some of those, no pun intended, to the grave marks, not the people. And see if we could mark those as well. The thrift shop is the next big project we have going. One of the main things we did this year, gang, is we decided that we're not going to give up on Sunday school, but we're just going to go in a different direction. That we have this building we can use for something, which is not only just for community, but also for a thrift shop. But along with the thrift shop, we need to expand the parking down there. My biggest fear, as far as the thrift shop is concerned, is not that it'll pass or fail, it's that we have people backing out on the Forsyth Road trying to get out of here after buying something, and we've got to do something about that part. So it's going to take some thought and engineering to get that piece done as far as how to expand the parking lot down there. Of course, we have the parking up here, but not a lot of people are going to want to park up here, or they can't. It's going to be easier for them to park down there. And, all right, I don't want to repeat myself on the parking, but you know where this is going. The last thing is, please take a look at the back of the handouts that were given to you. There's a lot that we do to feed more Dan without stealing any of Wayne's thunder, or the things that Linda and Wayne have done, things that Pat and Richard Ryer have done in behind the scenes. That for a small congregation, we've got a lot going on. So just do what you can to help support these people as well. Does anybody have any questions for me? Everybody good? Well, that was easier than I thought.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
I'll just say something. about-
Hold on. I get to play Phil Donahue now.
I talked to Roof Right this week, and if we can get $2,191 for a deposit, then we can pay the rest of it when the job is done, which would be a $4,000 type of thing. They do have, what do I call, payments that you can make during the year, but it adds $1,000 to the cost. That's kind of pricey. So if we can get the funds, I know right now we have probably close to $1,000 to put for the deposit. So if we can get people to come up with the rest of it for the deposit and the rest of the roof, in the next few weeks, we could get this done. They can do it in 2 weeks. He said, we're about 2 weeks out. So if they want to start. But we need to have commitments and money donated ASAP to get this done.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else?
Can you repeat that, please?
Which part?
What you say?
Oh, about the loan?
Yes.
Roof Right, the contractor who gave us the estimate, could start 2 weeks out if we hired them to do it. And they have financing if we want to go through them. We pay $2,000, Pat, roughly $2,000 down to cover basic material. And then we can do monthly payments to pay off the balance of it. Okay? But if we do it that way, it's $1,000. They're not calling it interest, but it's service fees, so it's just another way around it. Same thing. So I mean, they're obviously taking a loan from somebody else to do that part. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So are you saying,
Well, I'm not saying anything. You are.
I'm just asking, so they'll take the loan for, what is it, 6,000 what?
6,500.
6,500. And then we're going to be paying interest on that loan.
Yeah, pretty much. They won't call it that, but that's what it is.
And how much does that interest come to?
$1,000.
Okay.
Okay. Now, remember, keep in mind, this doesn't cover the cost of fixing the plaster in here. This might be nothing. Okay, we might just be able to get in there and dry it out and clean it and repaint it. No one's touched it yet. I'm afraid to put my fingers on it. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, is it going to be solid? I'm going to put my hand through it. I don't know. Or mold. So we have to cover that as well. And I didn't want to give you a price without finding out first what it would be, but $2,500 comes to mind just as a number for you to hang your hat on, whatever you want to hang. It's just one more thing we need to worry about as far as what we're going to do here. But we need to protect the building. I mean, obviously we got to do it. There's no way around this. All right. Anyone else? Everybody, you good in the back row? Any problems back there? Okay. Yeah, I know you're just trying to jump on a moving train to see what's going on. Houston?
I just want to say that Chris has pointed out a very, not a viable thing, but we got to remember that, like, with buildings and everything, it doesn't get any better. So the sooner we jump on this, the better. Okay? Because it will get worse. We don't even know what's behind this crack here. And problems like this kind of start snowballing. and it gets more expensive. So the sooner we make a decision about this, the better. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Is the roof slate?
No, the roof is regular residential shingle, raised shingle. How old's the roof? 12, roughly 12 years old. It's recent for us. It was done while Ollie Hand was still senior warden, so that's about 12 years ago. Okay, got everybody worked up now, that's good. But I want to thank you all for the support you've given the church all year long and helping out. Without stealing any of Richard's thunder, as far as the work day we had last week, it was a really good turnout. It's always iffy when the wardens call for a work day, but worse, we don't know what the weather's going to do, okay? And then we don't know who's going to show up. And we try to work around football schedules and whatever else is out there. I made that mistake one time, and here by myself, because the Ravens were at home. But it does happen, and it's all volunteers, you all know. You know, it's always hit and miss. So I appreciate you all being here and helping out. And you want to add anything else, sir? You being Richard?
Well, let me turn around so people outside can see. I'd like to thank everybody that showed up last Sunday. We had about 14 people. And we got a lot accomplished. We, as you saw in the bulletin today, we got the tombstones reset. We got the caulking around the window down below, and we got the railroad ties out front here, so they sort of tried to stake them so they won't go sliding down the hill on the middle, end up on Forsyth down there. I think the biggest thing, though, we need to really address is the bell tower. And also, there's a few other minor projects around here that have to be done, but don't have to be done right this second, like the front door here needs to be painted. And I was back in the bathroom, and I'll probably take care of that on my own. And if the ladies probably have noticed, the seat sort of swiggles back and forth in there. So I'll have to address that. And down in the parish hall, there's still some minor projects down there that have to be done. I guess that's about it. Anybody got any questions, which I won't answer, but go ahead anyhow. Okay.
Thank you, Richard, and a special thanks to Richard, who stepped into the breach when Jim Farquhar needed to step down because of all of his work obligations. Richard very kindly stepped up in an acting capacity as a temporary junior warden. Has done a wonderful job for us. Jill, did you want to say something briefly about the status of the grant applications? Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay.
Just a quick overview.
All right. Actually, first, I want to say something about Escape Ministries. I was asked a little while back to be on their board, and it seems to me that maybe we here at St. Barnabas don't have an understanding of the scope of the ministry of Escape. We provide lunches, quarterly? Yeah, so quarterly, as do other churches. But the mission of Escape is far more than that. People in, I think it's 16 churches, give money to help people who have particular needs. There is a woman who, I don't know whether she's a retired or an active social worker, who's been with Escape for a long time. And she is very good when, what will happen, well, people will be referred to her, and then if they need help with their rent, if they're going to be evicted, if they need help with their water bill, if they need their car repaired so they can get to work, she will determine whether or not it's sort of a legitimate situation, and then she will give them money from this fund, which is provided by the churches, various churches. And she's very good at sort of like keeping up with people and making sure that people follow through. And I find her an amazing person because she's very pragmatic and hard-nosed, but at the same time, she really has a tender heart. So how she can have been doing this years and years without becoming cynical, I don't know, but she's just an amazing person. But so when the church, when St. Barnabas provides money to Escape, we are supplying this fund, which helps people then who are having these different kinds of financial needs. So what Escape does is far more than just the lunches. But I was actually for a short while, I was asked to take part with distributing the lunches, and I would go every Wednesday morning to St. Paul's, and there would be a group of people who came and would pick up lunches, and they would really support one another, which was really, did my heart good to see how much people in need are still helping each other. Anyway, so that's about Escape. Then about getting the grants, which I had some good news for you, but so far we don't. So we've been working on this for about a year, and it's a long, drawn-out process. You know, you apply 1 month, and then 3 months later you hear whether or not you've got the grant, and then it's a wait of 6 more months before you can apply for the next one. So far, we have applied for 4. 3 have been declined. The 4th I'm waiting to hear on. There is 1, possibly 2 more coming up. The DAR, Daughters of American Revolution, they have a national grant, and for which we need the sponsorship of a local chapter. And maybe some of you had seen about a month or so ago, a woman came, and she's it's called the chapter regent of the local chapter. And she came and was part of the service, and because she needs to write a letter sponsoring us, she was very enthusiastic, very warm about what we're doing. So I know she's really gonna, help us all that she can. She also said there may be state DAR grants in addition to the national one, and she's looking into that. So that's what will be coming up next. We have been debating sort of among ourselves. There is a Maryland Historical Trust which gives grants, but for that we need to give an easement to the church, which I don't really understand all the ins and outs of it, but it means that any sort of major renovations or whatever that we're planning, we have to run by them first because this is an historic building. And if we are going to go that route, then we need to involve the diocese because they actually are the owners of this property. So we're having to delay with the Maryland Historic Trust because of all these issues. Marek Walczak, who you've just been nominated, just been taken on as another, whatchamacallit?
Vestry member.
Yes, vestry member. Okay. He is a huge history buff, and he came to me and told me that he was a huge history buff, and he said that he would check out, he has a lot of contacts in the sort of historian/preservation arena. And he came back to me and said that their general consensus is that if we were on the National Register of Historic Places, that it would be a lot easier to get money. Again, I don't know what that would mean in terms of an easement. I haven't checked that out yet because it's way down the road. And also, it would probably cost us some money because we would probably have to get consultants. So I don't even know if that's a going thing. But Marek and I think Chris is going to help us out a bit, are going to see, Marek says that these stained glass windows would be probably the thing that would set this church apart to get on the National Register of Historic Places. So we are doing research into the stained glass windows. This one is signed in the front. by a company. We think the founder was a student of Tiffany, so that will certainly count for something, but we don't know about the side windows, and that's what we're trying to research. I'm kind of rattling on here, but it's a long, drawn-out process. Yes?
So what, so the Maryland, could be National Historic,
Register?
once nation, once state.
Right, yeah.
So are we trying for the state or the national?
We, both, but we have to, we missed the boat for the state this year because of all the easement issues. We have to determine whether that's something we want to do, and if we just say, okay, we're willing to go with an easement, then we have to wait until next February when their applications open again.
I think anytime you're part of any of that, anytime you do anything to the building, or any kind of renovations or anything, that all has to be approved, pre-approved. So.
So that's what we have to decide. My personal feeling about all this is this is an old historic building. It's gonna need, down the years, a lot of work. And so my personal feeling is that I think it would be good for us to get on the National Register. But that's something for the vestry and the church as a whole to decide. So we're working away. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing we have to keep in mind, if it's a historic building and you're making changes, they not only have to approve it, but it's the way we have to improve it, where we may have to repair things as they were built, which could cost us a lot more in maintenance and new construction. So just keep that in mind.
I know, there are a lot of factors to keep in mind. But it's not a decision that we have to make right now. Any other questions? Okay, as I say, so we're waiting to hear from the National Fund for Sacred Places, and it will be June 1st when we send in the application to the DAR. I have discovered it's not enough just to be in this old historic building. There really needs to be sort of something that sets you apart, or a program that you're doing that sets you apart. So I don't want to get people's hopes up that we are going to be able to get a grant, because the competition is fierce for these funds. But we're just going to keep trying and keep plugging away.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for all you have done. I did want our long-suffering president of our altar guild to have an opportunity to say a few words. I can come to you. Thanks, Sherry.
Thank you. The Altar Guild is a very significant ministry, as everyone knows, serving under the guidance of Father Tim as we prepare the church and the Lord's table for Holy Eucharist. We are blessed to have a very dedicated group of 14 members and 3 honorary fellows, Tim King, Wayne Pugh, and Richard Ryer. In addition to preparing the Lord's table, we also care for the altar linens, create and care for the flower arrangements, maintain the inventory of all the supplies and tools, as well as setting up for the seasonal feasts, weddings, funerals, memorials, baptisms, visitations, and any other special services requested by Father Tim. Thank you very much to everybody for your donations. They help cover the cost of flowers and our supplies. And we would love to have additional members, of course, to join our group. If anyone is interested, please let me know. And thank you very much to Father Tim for his support and guidance. We really love him.
Thank you, Sherry. I just want to say very briefly a few things. I want to thank a lot of people, but today in particular, Lisa Thomas, who's up there on the balcony. She is taking the minutes for this meeting and also live streaming it for people who cannot be with us today. And Lisa is one of our most dedicated and committed parishioners. So please let us But this is a small church, but it's a vibrant and vital church. And one of the nice features of it is that people are genuinely welcomed into this congregation. And Charlene and Steve Toth recently joined us, and they are already working as greeters, and thank you for that. So many people to thank, and I just want to say that I think there's something in the water, because this church is beginning to experience some growth. You've all noticed that we have some new people coming in the door and remaining, and I've baptized 2 of them in the last 2 weeks, but that's so encouraging. Our weekly attendance is now averaging above 50, which is not seen for a long time. So that's good news, and other churches are seeing this as well. The Spirit seems to be blowing through the state of Maryland, and long may that continue. So I love my time here. I love working with everybody. I just want to tell you a couple of things that I do that you may not know of. One of them is that I go twice a month to Copper Ridge, the residential facility for people with memory disorders, and I do a service there. I take my guitar, I play a song for the residents, we have a great time. And one of our former parishioners, Paul Reed, who's a friend of Jeanette's, and Paul is now there, so I get a chance to see him every couple of weeks, which is nice. And I'm also involved in the Lutheran prison ministry. So I go to the Central Maryland Correctional Facility in Sykesville occasionally and do a service there. And that's one of the things that gives me a lot of joy. The people there, the inmates, are deeply committed to their faith, and they realize how important it is to them for their life inside and also for the future when they are released. So it's a pleasure to be able to work with them. So this is one of the ways in which I, as a representative of St. Barnabas, am out in the community doing some work and flying the St. Barnabas flag. So I'm having a great time, and so many people, as I said, to thank. And God bless you all. That's it. So any questions and Q questions and any answers? Chris. Don't drop it. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to thank 2 other people before we finish up today. Behind the scenes that you just don't see them do anything, when all of a sudden things show up. One of them is Pat Ryer, who made the curtains for us down in the parish house.
Yep.
Richard helped to hang them, so I want to thank him for that. And also behind the scenes, if you read the sign, it usually changes about once a month, thanks to Nancy and Mike for coming up with the slogans. I know you saw one today about ATM inside, atonement, truth, and mercy.
Yep.
And Nancy loves it. She has a great time with it. She's down there anytime that she needs to change the signs out. So again, we don't see it, it just happens. So I just want to thank them as well and recognize it.
All right. Any questions?
I'd just like to mention, Father's Day is coming up, so GoFundMe and Mother's Day, that GoFundMe page
Right.
might be a good gift.
Exactly. Thank you, Jack. I will make sure the congregation is aware of that, of where to go to make a donation. That'll be in the announcements this week. As well, I think, perhaps you and I could write a joint letter or something to the congregation about the importance of bringing money next week or making a donation this week for the repair of the roof. We've got to jump on that. And yeah. What's that?
I assumed you were looking at me when you said that.
Yeah. Yes, Pat.
Could we have another meeting of the group that was going to start
The thrift shop?
thrift shop and the rummage sale? We need another meeting soon, because next Sunday begins our donation
Yep.
People need to know that they can bring their donations. And I guess my question is, if you and Secretary Sue are here on Thursday, could people bring something between maybe 10 and 12 if one of us on the committee could be here too?
Yep.
And ask them to put them in, there's a section for men, section for women, section for children, miscellaneous. And if you mark whatever you're bringing in, I'll put a note in the bulletin about it, but I want to say something after about it when Chris was talking.
That's great.
That way we have it sort of organized.
Send me that note sooner rather than later, as soon as you can. Yes, Wayne.
I'd like to get the ball rolling on the repair of the roof. If we can do it internally, I'd like to donate $500
Okay.
to get it started.
I'll match you. Okay. All right, there's a bidding war going on over here. All right. Right. Okay, well, this is great. So let's follow through with these very generous expressions of support. Yeah.
Lisa, are there any questions from live stream?
Nope, nothing came in.
Okay.
All right. Well, well, great. Thank you all for your spirit and willingness to see that this church doesn't just survive but thrive. Final word. No. 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 We're staying up above. Which is a much more comfortable place to be. All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.